So thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Lee Stevens, and I'm fumbling around with my PowerPoint, so forgive me on that. And we'll try and get this going. Welcome to Getting Started with BarTender REST API. This is going to be a quick but hopefully informative overview of the BarTender REST API and what you can do with it. Stacy, do you want to take over the housekeeping part?
Sure, yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Stacy Ajum. I'm a marketing manager here at Siegel Scientific. Like Lee mentioned, today's webinar, Getting Started with the BarTender REST API, will be about 30 minutes, and we'll be answering questions at the end of the session. So throughout the session, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and if we don't get to your questions during the session, we will follow up with you afterwards. And also, just to let you all know, this session is being recorded and all registrants will receive access to the recording later on. And our presenters today are Lee Stevens, Principal Sales Engineer, Michael Leo, Director of Product Marketing, and Stephen Watkins II, Sales Engineer. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Lee.
Okay. Mike, do you want to start with this part?
Great. Thank you, Stacy and Lee. And thank you to everyone for attending our webinar this morning. We greatly appreciate your time and interest in our BarTender REST API for integrating with your business systems and applications. As Stacy mentioned, we'll look to spend the next 30 minutes on this agenda that you see here. I'll start with a quick introduction. Lee will then provide an overview of the BarTender REST API and how it is being used by our customers today. Stephen will then show you a quick demo of how the BarTender REST API can help with your labeling. And then we'll end the presentation with a question and answer session. A quick note for anyone not familiar with us, we're Siegel Scientific, makers of BarTender software. Our company has over 35 or 38, I think, years of rich history in barcode reading, label design, printing, printer drivers, and integration. We are a global company with regional support centers that provide 24/7 follow the sun support, with support staff in 5 key geographic locations around the world, including the East and West Coast of the US. You know BarTender as the leading software management solution that helps customers to simplify and automate their labeling processes so they can design, create, manage, and print labels, RFID tags, and documents with ease. Our customers come in all sizes, from small to large across all industries. It is estimated that 70% of enterprise labeling occurs in the manufacturing, warehouse, and logistics space. Our customers use BarTender there, as well as a number of vertical specific applications. Businesses use BarTender to ensure that the right goods get to the right location. What they all have in common is the desire to improve labeling practices to reduce costs, accelerate logistics, meet regulatory requirements, and to track, trace, and manage what matters. Today, we have over 250,000 customers around the world printing over 50 billion labels per year. BarTender's Advantages has made it the #1 label management solution in the world. Most important, BarTender is easy to use yet powerful. BarTender is at the center of our customers' labeling ecosystem, connecting their business data and business systems to their labels, to their printers, providing the highest performance, optimized printing from anywhere, anytime. With BarTender, our customers have increased the overall efficiency of their entire supply chain while reducing IT operations and labor costs and improving both internal and external customer satisfaction. And we are very proud that we are the #1 Gartner customer recommended label management solution, and that all of the Gartner top 25 supply chain organizations use BarTender. So today, BarTender provides a really flexible integration platform, whether you are using BarTender on-premise software or our new BarTender Cloud service. Today, we'll be covering the BarTender REST API available in both our product lines. So now I'll turn the presentation back over to Lee. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. So we here at Siegel have been very excited about the release of our REST API, which we did the first portion of 2 years ago, and the full REST API became available just about a year and a half ago. Now, if you are new to REST, what it sort of is what it sounds like. It says representational state transfer application programming interface. But what this basically means is that BarTender has set up a series of standard ways that an external data source can send information in to the BarTender engine to execute BarTender type tasks, be it integrations, printing, etc. We support all of the standard data structures, and which is really great for our existing customers, we also support our classic BarTender XML script structures, or BTXML. So with BarTender REST APIs, you are going to find it far more easy and flexible to design that integration. As I like to tell people, BarTender is not a black box piece of software. BarTender is a workbench with an enormous range of amazing tools that allow you to construct what you need for your company. And with the REST APIs, we have just given you a whole new suite of tools. So let's take a look, for those of you who are, again, new to the API, just really how does it work? And it's actually quite simple in its concept. So a data source, such as you might see here, and they can be web applications, they can be an ERP system, a WMS system, they can be somebody working a keyboard through a web page, doesn't matter. That system goes, oh, I need to have these labels printed with this data, or I need to have these labels printed and I need BarTender to go and get this other data. All of that information and data is put into a standard web service request, the same kind of thing that your browsers are doing, and it gets sent. Now you'll see here it says, oh, get, post, patch. If you're not familiar, those just have, with those terms, those happen to be 3 different standard methods for having data exchanged between 2 web type browser points. And yes, that is what the REST API is the REST APIs all use the standard HTML or browser type interfaces. So now you can design a system where your client sends your data source sends the data to BarTender in a standard HTML format. Our REST API will grab it and then go ahead and process it to generate new files, new labels, prints, whatever you need and in whatever combination you need. All of the flexibility of BarTender and its integration system is there at your command, and now you can do it in a nice, easy, standard format style. Okay? One of the great things about this BarTender API, and one of the reasons we're encouraging everybody to go this direction, is that the REST API is basically the same whether you are using BarTender Premise or our new BarTender Cloud that we rolled out last fall. So you can write one integration and then determine whether it's going to be printed through your premise BarTender or to a remote location through your cloud BarTender, simply by changing the address that the URL is going to. So this means that you are not going to have to do double work. You're not going to have to write one integration and then another one later on. If you are a BarTender Premise customer right now and you design an integration around the BarTender REST API, next year, a year after, this year, whenever you decide you want to start working also with BarTender Cloud, guess what? Those integrations are going to require the barest tweaking to get them working in the cloud. And it's mainly, again, going to be URL changes, that addressing type changes. So this is really great. It means you're future-proofing your work. You can have your ERP, your WMS work in a true hybrid cloud premise environment. So BarTender, we don't see the world as either or. It's not either premise or cloud. It's both. BarTender is going to support you in that hybrid environment. And the REST API is key to that. Now, talked a lot about it. Just this page kind of sums it up. The API is really great. It's lightweight, so it doesn't take a lot of heavy overhead to put one together. It is independent. This is also a terrific advantage, one that BarTender has used for a long time. We call it a clean handshake type of method, where we are not into your WMS, and you are just sending instructions to BarTender. So either side is independent and can be changed as needed. This is great flexibility, and it also scales extremely well. We use standard-based protection with OAuth protocols to verify the rest, etc. So a lot of technical advantages, and a big one is people have been using APIs now and REST APIs for well over 10 years. So there's a large body of knowledge out there, and people are very comfortable using their APIs. So with that, let me now introduce you to Stephen, who is going to show you what you probably are really excited about, and that is a short demo of the REST API as it actually works. So Stephen, you want to take it away?
I will, thank you. If we can advance the slide one more for me. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Stephen Watkins II here. And I'm going to take you on a small digital walk through everything Lee was just explaining about REST API, where we're taking it from originally, how we go through the process, and how we get to the end point of you having a label or document that you are wanting to print out to fit your needs. As you can see on the slide here, we're going to be using Insomnia in place of your ERP or WMS. Then we're going to push the REST API, the data to it where we need it. We're going to be able to show you we're going to print out anywhere, which will, today we're going to point to the BT Cloud. And then we'll show also where it can be in the cloud itself and on premise. And with that, if I could have control. Thank you. All right. And here we are. We're here now at Insomnia. Again, this is going to be the replacement of the ERP system that you have in your company, where you have probably a data engineer that's able to actually set up, get the mass amount and lump of data that you have, and be able to push that out into the way that you would like to have it. What you're seeing here in the REST API using YAML is just a high level of where we're going to go. It's going to show the action itself. This is where the label will be in our BT. We've already downloaded that into BT Cloud. This is the type of print it's going to do. We went for printing the PDF today. This is the folder it's going to print out to in BT Cloud, and I'll show you these things when we get over there. And this will be the name of the PDF when it's done. I also have here a copy of our label itself in my own on-premise BarTender Cloud software. So this is going to be the label we're printing, which is already, again, in the REST API, or in the in BT Cloud. We have some static information here as placeholders, where it's going to come from, where it's going to ship to, pretty much a industry agnostic label itself, and carrier name, and all the data. Now, the thing I wanted to bring to your attention here is that when you're looking at the data, you're going to see the name data sources, the carrier name, city, where it's coming from, company, state, and street. You'll see that we have these here as objects, and that's what we're going to push out to. And finally, here we are in BarTender Cloud. Now, this is where, if you look at the address that we're pointing to as well, main, demo, PDF prints. Again, this is what will be put into your ERP, so you can send the data there to get the printout that you're looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to click send. And in Insomnia, you'll have, again, it'll be different for whichever internal system that you're using. They'll let you know that you successfully printed out correctly. And here, this is how we know it was created properly. We don't see anything yet. We're going to go on ahead. We're going to refresh. And here's the label. Quick, simple, ready to go. We're going to go on ahead. We're going to double click so we can take a look at the PDF itself. And there we are. the information that we had ready to go in Insomnia is now here. The ship from date has now taken place of all the static data that was for placeholding. Ship to as well, postal codes that we needed, store numbers that we needed, and the barcode numbers as well. And not only that, we're able to adapt and say, oh, we needed 3. Now, of course, you can adapt any of this information at the time that you need it and switch it as need be and print it to where you are. And again, BT Cloud gives you a lot of options to do so that way as well. And we have 3 copies of the label. Now, again, using YAML data structures, which we have, you of course can do with your own ERP. It covers YAML, XML, JSON. All of these are covered for BT Cloud when you're pushing the data down using REST API. And now the last piece that we were going to talk about was going to the REST API versus, or the BT Cloud versus going to your on-prem. And that's as simple as changing the document file address here. You can use this exact same data structure and just change where the print's going to and the name, or where you're going to get the template for and where the print's going to go to. You can say you'll be able to send this again and you'll be able to push that internally as well. And with that, I am done with my demo. Thank you so much. If Stacy, you want to take that back from Michael Leon?
Okay, thank you, Stephen. That was really terrific. So you should be seeing on your screen now a list of different documentations and resources that are available to you, and you will be getting a copy of this presentation as well as a link to the video on that. And keep those questions coming. Even if we don't have enough time to answer them all in this call, we will be following up and answering every single question. So if you have a question, go ahead and submit it. We have a bunch of different things out there for support, as you can see right here. And let's move on. I think, Mike, I accidentally took over your slide there.
It's all right.
I don't know what I just did, but I blew something up.
Well, I think if you put back in slideshow mode.
There we go.
Go back one slide.
Okay.
That'd be perfect.
There we go.
Cool. Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Stephen. Yeah, that was a great demo, Stephen. I know that you were able to take a lot of information, complicated information, and sort of put it into a really nice short demo there. So hopefully, everyone, we've given you a good taste of how you can use the BarTender REST API to help your labeling needs. You can get the BarTender REST API in 2 ways. As I think we mentioned, it's available in both our product lines. So first, it's available in the latest BarTender 2022 release. And it's available in the Automation or Enterprise Edition software for your on-premise use. If you are a current BarTender customer, and you're on a current maintenance and support agreement, BarTender 2022 is a free download and update. And if you're already on Automation or Enterprise Edition, you can immediately start using the BarTender REST API. If you're not, of course, current on your maintenance and support agreement, please contact us, and we'd be happy, of course, to help renew your maintenance and support agreement so you can gain access to the BarTender REST API and a whole bunch of other cool new features. Second, the BarTender REST API is also included in our newest BarTender Cloud labeling service, or software as a service offering. And in particular, it's included in the automation plan. So if you do look at using BarTender Cloud and you have purchased the automation plan, the BarTender REST API is included for free, I guess you could say, as part of that plan. And again, you can immediately start using it. Just one other note, we also have 2 helpful professional service offerings. If you need the additional support, our professional services team can help outline specifically what you need as far as upgrading or improving your existing BarTender labeling solution. And then if you actually need assistance or help with the REST API integration itself, we've actually, based upon their experience with a number of large enterprise customers, they have a 30-hour package to help with any sort of integration using the BarTender REST API. So in either case, we're here to help you. So please contact us or your local BarTender reseller for more information about everything you see here. So with that, we'll end our presentation and open it up for questions. And
Yeah.
I think I'll sort of start off here. I mean, we're getting a lot of questions here. So I think the first question that sort of came up is someone is asking a couple questions again. What's the cost for the BarTender REST API? So just to mention again, BarTender REST API is available in both our product lines. It's available in the latest BarTender 2022 software release. Again, if you're on maintenance, in an active maintenance and support contract, you can upgrade to BarTender 2022. And if you're on the automation or enterprise edition of the software, the BarTender REST API will be available for you to use. Second, BarTender Cloud. If you want to try out the BarTender REST API, adding BarTender Cloud is a great option. So even if you're an existing BarTender customer, adding one of the BarTender Cloud plans, the automation plan, will give you access to the BarTender REST API for you to try that out. So that was sort of the first immediate question we saw here. Second question, which it looks like maybe for Lee, it says, I see a lot of questions about whether the REST API will work with different ERP systems, whether it's Epicor, Kinetic, S4HANA, Priority. But anyways, Lee.
Yeah, so the short answer to that is yes. And this is the advantage of the clean handoff I was talking about. So the way the API is working is BarTender is not in or directly connected to any of those systems. Instead, those systems are simply handing off to the BarTender API the data and instructions for that data that they want BarTender to operate on. And so it takes it from there. BarTender does not know nor care that it was coming from a high jump system or an Enforce system or a Advantage system. It doesn't matter. It's all contained in the API. So I like to joke, if you can send it to if you can send API and smoke signals, we'll be able to read it and accept it.
Cool. Thank you, Lee. All right, next, keep going here. Let's see, another question is a lot of questions about where we can get further information and documentation on the REST API. So as I think Lee showed earlier, a couple of slides ago, there's actually a resource slide that's available that'll show you provide links to all the documentation for BarTender software, as well as BarTender Cloud. So you all will get an email after this webinar with a link to a copy of the presentation, as well as a link to the recording itself. It's also, I'm seeing, and I think Lee, myself, and Stephen were talking about this before the webinar, is there's a lot of questions about maybe we can get even a deeper level of detail, technical detail about the BarTender REST API, and I actually think that's a great idea, and I think you guys can look for a future webinar where we maybe take a even deeper dive into the REST API for the folks that want to get to that level of detail.
Yeah, I think it definitely from the questions, Mike, that we have the interest in that. I'll tell you one common thread in the questions that I'm seeing right now deals with using the API and doing printing, and I think a lot of it is anticipating printing through the cloud, since in Stephen's demo that's what they saw. And so let me just explain a little bit about on the cloud side and how the API would work with that for printing. So with the cloud, we have you can either print it to PDF, and that would, which is what Stephen told the integration to do, or there is an agent that your end users are able to download that we call the Print Gateway service. And with the print gateway service, BarTender is able to see the printers at the remote end and then use its drivers. Now, this is true whether it's BarTender Cloud or BarTender Premise through our print portal application. But in those cases, because BarTender knows about those printers, they are simply addressable in the API. So when you go back, if you replay and you'll look at Stephen's script, you'll see this one reference about where's the printer, and he gave a reference to print the PDF. That would be substituted with the address for the remote printer, and BarTender Cloud or Premise through Print Portal would then just go and print straight to it. So, Mike, have you seen some other questions?
Yeah, it looks like there's 2 or 3 questions around supporting printing RFID tags using the REST API. And I think the answer to that is totally yes, but I'll let you provide some background on that, Lee.
Yes, and it actually, that's a great follow-up because it's because of the same mechanism. Using the printer gateway service, because we can see and know what that printer is, we're able to use that printer's own drivers. And then because we're doing that, we are able to encode RFID. And so any printer driver that, and we use Siegel drivers, of course, which are the, the gold standard in the industry on our cloud product. On the premise product, we, those Siegel drivers are what we encourage you to download and install, and they're free. If the printer supports that type of encoding, and they're talking about doing some fairly high-end stuff where we're going in and infecting EPCs and getting TIDs and things like that, if we can do it with just a straight regular integration, we can do it through the API. And that's the big thing I want everyone to understand, is that the API in one sense isn't something totally new. The API is instead a new way of talking to the BarTender engine. For those BarTender customers who've been with us for some time and have maybe done a lot of their own integrations, they're familiar with Integration Builder and they are familiar with BTXML, and they're also probably familiar with .NET framework integrations. So the API kind of fits into that same category as the .NET framework. And we all, if you're in this industry, you know that framework, which has been a great workhorse for a long time, is being replaced by everyone moving to the REST API because there are just a lot of advantages to it. So yeah, all we're doing with the API is giving you access to that same great BarTender engine to do whatever it is you need to have done. If you can do it in Integration Builder, if you can do it with BTXML, if you can do it with .NET, you can do it with the REST API.
Great, awesome, thanks, Lee. All right, well, I think we're nearing the bottom of the hour. So we said this is going to be a 30-minute webinar. So I just want to reiterate that thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend our webinar this morning. For all the great questions that you guys are answered, if we didn't necessarily answer it in the last 5 minutes or so, we will actually reach out to each of you individually and make sure that we answer the questions that you submitted as part of this webinar. So we want to make sure that we answer any question that you've posed. So look for us to reach back out to you in a few days with answers to your specific questions. And with that, I'll thank sort of my co-presenters here, Lee Stevens and Stephen Watkins, and Stacy for presenting the webinar this morning. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.